Yeah, hello, this is Dave from cheapbooks.com playing World of Tanks. The tank is the Dickermax. This is a German tier tank destroyer, and the map is 6. I am going to get 5 kills in this game, and I'm going to get the damage and the top EXP for both teams. This is a good tank. You know, it is a tank destroyer, and it's reasonably fast. You can see I'm doing around almost 40 kilometers. It has a powerful gun. The gun does 300 damage. Now that's an example. You can one-shot. You can one-shot a lot of tanks. The Dickermax can one-shot a lot of tanks. That's why I like playing the Dickermax. I really did not like it at first, and I didn't even like tank destroyers, but I bought it because I own all the premium tanks in the tech tree, so, you know, obviously I bought the tank. It wasn't that expensive. Maybe it was $20, and to me it's not going to prevent me from buying the tank. Now, this is a German-style tank destroyer. If you look at the British tank destroyers, they have a completely different style. The Americans tend to have turrets. The Soviet tanks have a different style. This is similar to a future Tiger. So it's got the little gun in the front that has a little bit of movement. It does aim quickly. All German tanks tend to aim quickly. It does turn quickly also, which is pretty good. Now, you can see I switched to the APCR rounds, and I believe it's because I saw the OI. There's not a lot of rounds. You've only got maybe 25 rounds, so you do have to be a little bit careful about how much ammunition you use. But one good thing about this tank is that you can use it for close combat. It's not the best derp tank, but doing 300 damage, you can one-shot a lot of tanks.
Target released.
Too bad I missed him. And he didn't even notice I was there. And he's got a rapid-fire gun. I wonder why he withdrew. So this is a type of tank. You can go into a city, and as long as you hide and you see that the enemy is low on hit points, just go around the corner and blast them. And I seem to recall it has really good gun depression.
Ready to fire. Penetration.
So that was a lot of damage.
Permission to engage.
Now, one good thing about the auto-aim is that if you use the auto-aim with a tank that has a fixed turret, what will happen is the tank will turn automatically on its own into the perfect position to prepare for firing. So I prefer to use the auto-aim for the tank to turn. It's going to turn at the maximum speed, and it's going to turn the exact amount, and it will be ready to fire automatically, and I don't have to do anything. That's why I use the auto-aim when I need my tank to turn.
Gotcha.
So that's 2 kills.
Ready to fire. Penetration. Target released. Target acquired. Got him.
That's 3 kills. I would love to be able to finish off that tank. Oh, it was so close. Now these Japanese heavy tanks, they have good armor on all sides. So there's not always an advantage. Not always an advantage to get behind them. However, some of them, they have a weak spot, which is these little mini turrets. Unfortunately, you can't get a good view of them. But what will happen is, in some cases, they'll have 2 of those mini turrets in the front and maybe only 1 in the back. So they actually have more weak spots in the front of the tank than in the back of the tank. It might not be true with all of the Japanese heavy tanks, but it's definitely true for some of them.
Penetration.
based on looking at his gun,
Target released.
he's probably got a gun that does,
Armor is destroyed.
his gun probably does 300 damage, just briefly from looking at the shape of the gun, but I'm really not sure. I've only had one of those OI tanks for a couple days now, of tier 6, so I'm really not an expert on the armaments on it. So I do have 4 kills, and when you're at this point of the game, what you can do is you can just sit at the cap and wait for the enemy to come to you. They have to come to you, otherwise they lose the game. But there's also the philosophy, if you want to get the kill, you got to hunt the enemy down. I am a little bit low on hit points, but with the element of surprise, I could probably do a lot of damage to these tanks. That first tank, the Grub, looks like he's probably going to be a... Oh, didn't want to do that. He's probably going to be a KV2, which means his armor might be a little bit stronger than a typical tier 6 tank. So the remaining 2 tanks are now on the west side, and we have one ally, which is a Stug 3, which is no match for whoever he's up against. The KV2 could possibly have a very strong gun, and the T-67 is very fast, and his turret can turn, which means that he could easily get behind the Stug
They're knocked out.
if he manages to stay alive. So that's 5 kills. The score is 14-11. Now the KV2 did kill the Stug, and the Stug probably has 350 hit points, so we know that the KV2 has a gun that's powerful enough to do that much damage, which means that that KV2 could easily kill me in one shot, and probably would. This type of a tank is not going to have strong armor on it, especially on the side. So you do have to be careful. Maybe against lower tanks I won't have to worry so much, or against low caliber ammunition, but you can easily die against a KV2 with one of these tanks. It's 14-2. We're halfway through capping the enemy. It's very important to cap the enemy. The KV2 is not that fast, so it's unlikely he'd be able to reset the cap, and he could be anywhere on the map. Doesn't look like he went very far.
Penetration. We're done for. Everyone get out.
Okay, so that's the game for me. Now, I suppose that there was very little that I could have done differently to protect myself. Maybe I could have come up with a better angle on my tank, or moving in reverse is slower than moving forward, and sometimes people move in reverse to protect themselves. It looks like I won't be able to go down the slope. So I may have had a little bit of an advantage if I fired and then moved forward at a little bit of an angle, increase the chance that he misses a shot. Because those tanks are not that accurate from a long distance. I'm sure it depends on what gun he has. Okay, so that is the Dickermax. This is a German Tier 6 tank destroyer. I did get 5 kills, and I got the top experience on both teams, and I got the top damage on both teams. I don't know how this game played out, and I'm not going to play it to the end. Is it worth it? When I first bought it, I thought, well, you know, the Dickermax isn't that great. And I used to always make fun of it when I saw it on the battlefield. But once I learned to play it, and I took advantage of that gun, and you're going up against, in Tier 5, you can find a lot of tanks that you can destroy in 1 or 2 shots, especially once the game gets going. There's going to be a lot of tanks that you're going to be able to kill in 1 shot, or take down a majority of their hit points with this tank. It is an excellent tank, and I love playing it now, even though I may not have liked playing it in the very beginning. So in terms of a Tier 6 tank destroyer, I do recommend it. I do have a lot of premium tank destroyers. I would say that I prefer to play the E25, which is, I believe it's a Tier 7 tank destroyer. There is another one I think is called the SU-12244. I like playing that tank, and I'm sure that there are other tank destroyers. Off the top of my head, I can't think of any. But I do recommend this tank, especially if you like playing tank destroyers. If you do like playing tank destroyers, I think you're going to like playing this tank. Another one to compare it to is the SU-100Y. The SU-100Y does around 500 damage. It does more damage in this tank. It doesn't have great aim on it, and it's a lot bigger of a tank. I would say between this and the SU-100Y, if you really know how to play tank destroyers, you might have more fun with the derp gun on the SU-100Y. If you really aren't that good with tank destroyers, you might like the Dicker Max a little bit more. But if you like tank destroyers, I would say Dicker Max is a good choice, but it might not be the best choice. You should really research all of them, but it's not a mediocre tank. So Dicker Max, I approve. I think it's a great tank. Okay, so that's the game. If you have any questions or comments, please post below.